Thanks everybody for being here. Welcome to our fourth of 5 candidate forums leading up to the ASI student government elections. My name is Nicole Onetto and I am the elections officer with ASI. It's my job to coordinate these student government elections. I will be serving as our moderator for today's forum. I'm joined by Lisa Dalton, our executive and board associate. She will be keeping the time today. So this forum is for our executive positions on the ASI board of directors. That would be the vice president of finance, vice president of university affairs, and vice president of academic affairs. Just a reminder that this is an optional event for candidates. We kind of offer several opportunities for candidates to put themselves out there and present their platform, should they choose to take advantage of those opportunities. But it's not required for candidates to be here. So you'll see we have some and not others, but that's perfectly fine. Today we do have a few, but I'll go ahead and read all of the names of the candidates in ballot order. So here we go. For Vice President of Finance, the candidate is Dravisha Buhani. For Vice President of University Affairs, we have Garima Sharma and Lexa Estrella. And for Vice President of Academic Affairs, we have Robert Gonzalez, Natalie Andrade, Serafina Johnson, and Karina Giordina. All right. As you may have seen in the chat, this is a leadership initiative event. If any attendees are seeking leadership initiative credit, they should send a private message in the chat to Lisa with their first and last name, their SACLink email, and their student ID number. We'll go ahead and send that information over to the Leadership Initiative team and make sure you get your credit. Okay, let's start talking about the format of today's forums. Any question asked, that's a weird order to say that in, but we're just going to go ahead with it. Any question asked by the audience will be asked of all candidates with the same amount of time allotted for response, 1 minute. Please do not submit questions until we reach the audience Q&A portion of the forum. So you'll see the Q&A box down at the bottom. Don't use it until I have announced that it's time for that portion of the forum. Please and thank you. Additionally, no candidates, whether participating in the forum or as a part of the audience, may ask questions of the other candidates, so there's no way to give an unfair advantage or disadvantage to the candidates on the panel today. Following the forums, any statements about ASI that are factually incorrect will be addressed on the ASI website fact-checked section. Okay, as far as structure and timing, each candidate will be given an opportunity for a 2-minute statement. You don't have to use all the time, but you have up to 2 minutes to speak. Then I will pose a general question to all candidates, which each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to. Then I will pose a positional question for each of the 3 positions represented here today. And each candidate, they will also have 1 minute to respond to that. And lastly, candidates will have up to 2 minutes for their closing statement. Again, you don't have to use all that time, just up to 2 minutes for your closing statement. And then we will move into the audience Q&A portion of the forum. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. We'll be answering the questions in ballot order today. So that puts us with Lexa first. Lexa, you'll have 2 minutes for your opening statement. Lisa, are you ready with the time? All right, Lexa, your 2 minutes begins now.
So hello, everyone. I hope that you're all doing well today. My name is Lexa Estrella. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and I am running for the Vice President of University Affairs position. And sorry, so I kind of just give my statement, but don't answer the questions, correct? Okay, correct. So I am here today running for this position because I personally started college during mid-pandemic. So I know how hard it is to get involved on campus. I started getting involved on campus online and it wasn't the best, but now being in person, I've seen how students still are having a hard time to get involved. And I would like to change that, not only because it would benefit me, but it would benefit all students. It would make it easier for them to find internships, to build their resume, because while you're in college, you're able to build your resume the most. And once you graduate, it gets a lot harder. I work with students that are from undocumented and mixed status backgrounds at the Dreamers Research Center, and I've seen how they've also struggled. So also helping them would help me a lot, because I see how they struggle, especially because they're undocumented and because they don't know where many support groups are. So this is why I'm running for Vice President of University Affairs. And so, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Lexa. Next, we'll move to Robert Gonzalez. Robert, you'll have 2 minutes for your opening statement, and your time will begin right now.
Good afternoon, Hornets, and everyone else watching. And I first want to start off by saying thank you for attending and for the ASI elections team for setting this all up. I'm Robert Gonzalez, and I am running to be your next Vice President of Academic Affairs. Throughout my time here at Sac State, I have witnessed the academic barriers affecting Sac State students, like registering for classes, graduating in a timely manner, and not having access to a quality education. These issues drove me to join the Student Academic Senate when I was a freshman, and I worked my way up to be the current vice chairman of the Student Academic Senate. I have worked tirelessly as an academic peer mentor, the Student Academic Senate vice chairman, and serving on the current lobby corps to advocate on the behalf of students. But I do not plan to stop there. I'm running for VPAA, Vice President of Academic Affairs, to ensure students have access to a quality education, students graduate on time, and fixing our current registration system, while also promoting faculty and staff diversity and much more. But I cannot do this alone. And if there is one thing that I learned about being in student government, whether it's advocating or talking with the current ASI Board of Directors to advocate on the behalf of students, is that once Hornets coming together, the sky is the limit. We can do anything, and other candidates can agree with that as well. And that is why I'm asking for your vote on April 6th and 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. That brings us to Natalie Andrade. Natalie, you'll have 2 minutes for your opening statement, and your time begins right now.
Hey, good afternoon, students. As mentioned, my name is Natalie Andrade, and I'm running for the position of Vice President of Academic Affairs. A little bit about me: I'm a second-year political science major, a first-generation college student, and I'm originally from East Los Angeles. A question I get asked a lot is, why did I decide to run? I'm running for this position because I believe student government is important. After all, we as students, we should have a right to have a say in our education. I also believe I am the most capable for this position with my experience directly in student leadership, and I know the bylaws and logistics of holding a student government position. I was in student government all throughout high school and served as senior class president. I was also in the student council, where I worked directly with the school board to discuss student issues and school-related problems. Coming into Sac State, my freshman year during COVID, I joined ASI committees, and in my second semester, I ran in the ASI elections, but unfortunately lost. And now, this past semester, I became a part of the SSIS Joint Council, where I served as treasurer and now serve as vice president. And I have also been involved in many clubs and organizations on campus. But overall, I do enjoy being very involved because I believe we have a voice and we need to use it. I know what it's like to feel voiceless and don't know who you can trust sometimes. So I hope to be that person that you guys can all trust to voice your concerns and issues to our ASI Board of Directors and to find a solution together. With my experience and my desire to advocate for students, our education, and make Sac State its best version, I hope all of you can vote for me as your next Vice President of Academic Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalie. That concludes the opening statement portion of the forum, where I think we're off to a great start so far. Let's move into the general questions. There's only one. And so this question is for everybody, regardless of the position that you are running for. So all three candidates that are here today will have an opportunity to respond to this question. Everybody will have 1 minute for their response. Here's the question. What current issues do you believe are affecting students right now? And how would you address those students' needs? So again, we'll start back at the beginning with Lexa. Lexa, you'll have 1 minute for your response, and your time begins now.
It's a very big question because there's so many changes that need to be changed. There's so many changes that need to be done here at Sacramento State. One of the big ones would be getting more students involved. As I mentioned, even now being in person, a lot of students don't know where certain centers are. A lot of students don't know that they can get they can apply for like a COVID grant if they're having a hard time, or if they can get free food here on campus through the ASI food pantry. There's things like that, or that they can get free legal services at the Dreamers Resource Center. So students stress over all of these things because they're not aware of all these opportunities that there is on campus that are for free and for them. So helping students know more about what there is here on campus for them would be such a great help, because
All
that
right,
also
that's
aligns.
time, Lexa.
Okay.
Thank you. 1 minute goes by pretty quick, but we are going to move forward, and we'll hear from Robert Gonzalez. Again, the question is, what current issues do you believe are affecting students right now, and how would you address those students' needs? 1 minute is on the clock for you, and your time begins now.
Thank you for the question. And there's so many issues, just like Lexa was saying, but some of the ones that really concern me on an academic level are affordable housing, representation, tuition increase, and the lack of resources. And not only the lack of resources, but students don't know that resources are available to them. And just like it was mentioned before, there's the new, I believe it's the emergency housing grant, and so many other scholarships that are usually not applied for. And so it's just floating money and floating resources. And I believe that as the next Vice President of Academic Affairs, I would bring all of us together, ASI Board of Directors, and I've done that before in the Student Academic Senate, to see how we can issue and address and tackle these issues such as affordable housing. Because on an academic level, academics is a huge word and it's very broad. It could be access to food, healthcare, it could be access to an affordable tuition, and much more.
All right, thank you, Robert. And now Natalie will have an opportunity to respond to the same question. Natalie, you have 1 minute on the clock, and your time will begin right now.
I think a big issue that is affecting students right now is actually transitioning back to in-person class and how that's affecting their mental health. I think there's a lot of broader issues that we can talk about, but I think that's the main one, transitioning back into campus, finding all these resources. You know, we were locked up for 2 years, we were on Zoom, no teacher interaction, no student interaction. So it's difficult to come back to that transition. And I feel like a lot of students are still not comfortable on campus. They don't know how to navigate through this big campus. So it's challenging and it takes a toll on our mental health, not knowing how to navigate through this new journey that we're on. So if I was your next VP of Academic Affairs, I think the first thing I would do is acknowledge this issue and come up with a plan to have a transition easier for students, whether that's making class registration easier, or giving them workshops on how to navigate through certain classes, how to apply for scholarships, anything that they need, but to show that we actually care and help them through this transition without it affecting their mental health.
All right, that's time. Thank you. Okay, we had lots of good answers for that general question. So now let's dig a little bit deeper and start in with the positional questions. So starting back up at Vice President of University Affairs. 1 minute, let me get to the right page here. Okay, so starting back with Lexa, you'll have 1 minute to respond to the positional question, which I will pose right now. The question is, what knowledge and recruitment experience do you have to encourage students to serve on university committees? And what actions will you take to ensure a high number of students sign up for university committees? Big question. 1 minute to respond to all that. Time begins now.
Okay, so as mentioned, I started college during the pandemic. So I know the struggle of getting involved. So for starters, I started off as a student in the Dreamers Resource Center seminar online. Moving forward, I applied for the Dream Leaders internship. With this opportunity, I was able to work with students, and then being able to work with students helped me understand what they wanted, what they were seeking as change here on campus. So I also saw how they struggled to get involved. I then got involved with different strategic student support programs such as the Cerna Center, Pride Center, the Multicultural Center, the Women's Center, and CAMP. So now as a student assistant, as a Dreamers Research Center, I do outreach. So I've given classroom presentations on motivating students to join the center, as well as what other resources they have there. So personally, having experienced the struggle of being involved
That's time.
and witnessing it.
Thank you, Lexa. All right, so that's the only answer we're going to hear to that question. So it's time for a new question. This question will be for the candidates running for the Vice President of Academic Affairs. So we'll start with Robert again. And the question for these two will be, what are the most important academic issues on campus and how would you address them? So again, starting with Robert, there will be 1 minute on the clock for you and your time begins now.
So as mentioned before, there are a lot of academic issues, but some of the ones that I'm pinpointing on this campaign are class registration and access to affordable housing on campus and outside of campus. And one way we can do this is I currently serve on the Academic Policies Committee and as a chairman of the Student Academic Senate. And this is actually one piece of work that we are working on as I speak. And we just had our meeting last week. And what I would want to do is there's a communication problem between university and students and ASI. And so what I want to do is I want to bring everyone together, conduct a thorough plan to make sure that students have access, not only access to, but they know how to use the resources available to them here on campus.
Great, thank you very much, Robert. And now I'll repeat the question for Natalie. The question is, what are the most important academic issues on campus and how would you address them? 1 minute will be on the clock for you and your time begins now.
Again, kind of repeated, there is a lot of issues here on campus, but I think a very big one that I have seen and read about is that the graduating in 4 years, students graduating in 4 years, Sac State over the years has had a low graduation rate and even lower in students of color to graduate in 4 years. And I read that actually for the past few years, Sac State has worked hard to raise the percentage to 25.8% according to the Sac State News. And what I want to do is I want to help Sac State higher the graduation rate by providing ideas and plans to help students with financial barriers, easier class registration, add more high demand classes, remove no credit courses, and offering more advising to guide students through the process so they can graduate in 4 years.
Thank you very much, Natalie. And so those are all of the positional questions that we'll be hearing responses to today. So we're moving right along. It's time for the closing statements. So we'll start back with Lexa. Everyone will have 2 minutes for their closing statement. And we'll just keep moving through the order there. And Lexa, you've got 2 minutes on the clock and your time begins right now.
Thank you. So overall, my priority is to be familiar with all the committees on campus, because that would help me be more well informed as to what their goals are and be able to talk to students about what different committees there is and understand how they'll benefit from them and which one fits more with what their goals are. So with that being said, also working on the mental health aspect. As mentioned, I work, so therefore I work 2 jobs. I'm double majoring and I am fully independent, which means that I don't have any help from my parents. I know that I'm not the only student here on campus with that struggle. So sometimes with all those things and all those responsibilities that you may have, you're not able to get involved. So helping those students and understanding where they come from will be able to help me be able to help them and not only hear them, but understand them. Because it's not about just hearing students, but also understanding them. Because we're not able to create change unless we don't understand where the other party's coming from. And this would not only benefit the students, but it would benefit everyone here on campus. Because we all have personal problems and we all have, mental health problems. Personally, I've struggled a lot with anxiety, and I know that I am not the only student, so also giving students those resources and informing them about the resources that there is on campus will help them not only perform better in their classes, but be able to have that college experience we all are seeking. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lexa. Going back to Robert. Robert, you'll have 2 minutes for your closing statement, and your time will begin right now.
Thank you. And before we all log off, right, another Zoom session, I want to say thank you all again for being here and for the ASI elections team once more for setting this all up. I know the hard work you all do. It's incredible. And if you haven't already, please check out my link tree on my Instagram account. It's at Robert Gonzalez 4 VPAA. I also want to just say, I think I am the most qualified candidate for the Vice President of Academic Affairs position because I am the current vice chairman of the Student Academic Senate. I serve right along Sadia Ashraf, who is the current Vice President of Academic Affairs, and I already have detail and outside experience of what the Vice President of Academic Affairs is and what we can and cannot do and what we're really capable of. But one thing I do want to emphasize is that it's not just me running for this position. It's a whole student movement behind my campaign. And what we really need to do is we need our voices to be heard. We need our voices to be loud and clear. And if you don't know already, most of these committee meetings and ASI Board of Directors meetings are open to the public. And so any issues or questions you have, you can attend these meetings and you can check out more on the ASI website. But before we go, no matter who you vote for, please vote and tell your friends to vote as well. It doesn't matter if you're voting for me, it doesn't matter if you're voting for anyone else, just please get out there and vote because our democracy here on campus as well, it's only going to work if we all participate. And so I will appreciate if you vote for me, but at the same time, please vote no matter who you vote for.
Thank you very much, Robert. All right, we're getting to that last closing statement. Last but not least, we have Natalie. 2 minutes will be on the clock for you, Natalie, and your time begins right now.
Okay. So first off, I would just like to thank everyone who organized this forum for us today and everyone who came out to support us. Ending this forum today brings us one step closer to Election Day. I hope you students take your time to get to know each candidate and their platform, and you choose the candidate that you think will represent you best. Remember, these elections aren't for us, they're for you, the students. Whoever wins, we're here to serve you. We're here to represent you. I hope you all know that I'm here with good intentions, with the right motivation, and a strong mind. If elected, I will not only fulfill my duties as Vice President of Academic Affairs, but also I want to be someone that you guys can come to. They can come to and talk to if you need anything, regardless if it's not about what I do in my position. I'm here as an ally, a supporter, and as a friend. So if you're interested in learning about me and more about my campaign, you can go ahead and follow my Instagram. It's Natalie Andrade, 4FORVPAA, where I have my website listed and a bunch of their posts that go far more in depth about my campaign. So as always, stingers up, and I hope that you guys can cast me as your next Vice President of Academic Affairs on April 6th and April 7th on the ASI website. But most importantly, make sure you go out and vote because that's the most important thing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Those were magnificent closing statements. And personally, I had a great time listening to everybody's answers to the questions. I hope everybody in the audience did as well. And speaking of the audience, now it's your time to speak up. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask the candidates that we have here today, now is your chance. So you'll see that we have our Q&A button down at the bottom of the Zoom room. You can go ahead and click there and ask a question, but there are some requirements here. You'll have to put your name. We can't have any anonymous questions. If any questions are sent in anonymously, I won't be asking them. Don't hide. We want to hear your question and know who you are. Also, make sure you specify who your question is going to, whether it's for everybody here or if it's just for our candidate for Vice President of University Affairs or for our candidates for Vice President of Academic Affairs. The only thing is you can't ask a question to a single candidate. I hope that makes sense. So now I will give us a couple minutes to get those questions in. I already see one in there. But I'll give us a couple minutes to let a few more come in. Candidates, take a breath, take a drink of water. Lisa, take a drink of water. I'll be taking a drink of water. And we'll come back in just a minute. Okay, we have 2 questions in the Q&A box so far. Hoping we receive a few more. I'm excited about how many people we have in the audience, so please don't be afraid to ask a question in the Q&A box. We'd love to hear from you. We want you to learn more about the candidates. So send in those questions as we're answering the ones that are here at the moment. So we'll be going in the same order that we did before. And so we'll be starting with Lexa, and also make sure that I know that the panelists can see the questions in advance. You can see all of the questions in the Q&A box. Please only answer the one that I'm asking at the moment. Don't try to tie in all the questions that are in there to your response. We'll get to those questions. You'll have your time. All right, let's go ahead and ask the first question. This one's from Sandra, our executive director. And this one's for all candidates. Here we go. Name one detailed way that, if elected, you will share out information about the various campus resources to students. So we'll be starting with Lexa. You'll have 1 minute to respond to this question, and your time begins now.
Okay, so one way that I would advertise would be in person. Sometimes we forget about that. In most cases, we do social media, but in person, like classroom presentations, talking to students around campus when they're walking to class, advertising that would help a lot, because not only will you get one-on-one contact with them, but then moving forward, they'll remember you and be like, oh, they talked to me about this. Let me go tell a friend. They'll have a better understanding of what you are looking from them and what your goal is, rather than just a social media post that they might just skip through.
All right, thank you, Lexa. So the same question will be going to Robert. I'll repeat it really quick. Name one detailed way that, if elected, you will share out information about the various campus resources to students. So 1 minute for you, Robert, and your time begins now.
That's a good question. And I think one way to do this is contrary to what Alexa was saying, right? But I think over the pandemic, technology has really like grown into our brains. And so I think that one way to promote resources is social media. And I believe that is the best and most effective way. I follow the ASI Instagram, and I hope all of you do too. There's always updates on there, campus updates, resources, all kinds of way. And in person is a good idea too, but I just feel that people are a bit shy, and even with an email, people don't read through a huge email. I know I skim through emails. I might miss a thing or two. I think we can all agree to that. So I think social media is the best way to get students connected.
All right, thank you, Robert. And Natalie, how would you let students know about the resources available to them on campus? 1 minute on the clock, time begins now.
I've actually talked about this on my platform quite a bit, because I believe it's really important for students to know all about the resources they have available to them. So I honestly thought that it would be a good way to make mandatory workshops for all incoming freshmen and transfer students about all the resources. I know we have our orientation, but for me, especially my orientation was like zoomed through and like I forgot about it within the hour. So I think if there's something like a brochure or a pamphlet, something that we can give students that they can refer back to, okay, where do I go? Who do I need to talk to? Who do I email? All in one place that they have and they can go back to, I think it's going to benefit them a lot because I know I skip through emails and social media posts constantly. So I think that's an effective way to get the word out about the resources.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm seeing the questions rolling in right now. Very exciting. So we're just going to keep going in order here, both with the candidates and the questions. So the next question that I'll be asking first to Lexa. This is also from Sandra. This is for all candidates. Here's the question. Share your favorite ASI department and favorite ASI resource. I really like this one. So let's hear what the candidates have to say. Lexa, 1 minute on the clock. Time begins now.
I mean, I am very big on politics. Political science is my major, so student government, I'm really about being letting students know that they're heard and that, you know, they can create changes. But then one of my favorite services that I always talk to my students about is the scholarships. There's so much free money that you can apply to, and that could benefit you. Even if it's just $500, that's $500 that you don't have to worry about and that you can use for anything that might come up. Because as college students, you don't know what can happen the next day if your car breaks down or if you need to buy a book or something like that.
Thank you very much. Let's hear from Robert. What's your favorite ASI department and favorite ASI resource? 1 minute on the clock, and your time starts right now.
And so I also love the student government part of ASI. I'm currently involved with it, right? But that's not, I wouldn't say it's my favorite. I think my favorite is ASI programs because ASI is not just student government. I feel like we always just pin it to student government, but it's not just student government. The ASI programs is also a very good department in ASI, and in particular, it's the food pantry. I go in there, I went last week, or no, before spring break, and I got at least $65 worth of groceries. That's something I don't have to spend outside of like tuition and all these other things we have to pay too, right? And I think that's my favorite thing. Students save money, students, you know, get a whole like weeks or 2 weeks worth of meals and snacks, and it's a very good program, and that's my favorite so far. I also love the student government one though too, don't get me wrong.
All right, thank you very much, Robert. And Natalie, what's your favorite ASI department and your favorite ASI resource? 1 minute on the clock, time begins now.
That's kind of hard to pick. I'm also a government nerd, so I would want to say the ASI government, but besides of my own interest, I think a really good one is the Children's Center. I think, I'm not sure if other universities and colleges have it, but I think it's such a great resource for students who have children, and it could be difficult to manage. Like when I was at home during the pandemic and living with all my family, I couldn't do it. I can't even imagine my own child. So having that resource there, I think it's very, very, it's amazing to have that. And then resource, I'm also going to say what Robert said, the ASI pantry, I think it's a money saver. I think it's great that we can save a little bit of money because some of us sometimes just don't have the cash to spend like that on groceries.
Thank you. You all had way better answers than what I would have said. I immediately thought of the aquatic center because I went kayaking out there and it was so much fun. I recommend everybody does that. But those were very thoughtful answers, and I probably should have said something like that if I was a candidate. Okay. We're going to mark that question as done and move to the next one. This is from Casey from the State Hornet. This is for all candidates. And the question is, when asking students about issues on campus, they want to know what kind of influence board members can have on getting more online classes added to campus. So I guess tell us a little bit about the influence you think you could have on adding more online classes. So we're going to start with Lexa, 1 minute to respond, and your time begins now.
So it's, I mean, as board members, as students, we have a lot to, like, we have a lot of influence. We have a voice, and we can create changes if we all come together. But the influence that we have is that we're able to hear different, or at least for myself, I'm able to hear the different committees, understanding them, and also seeing where we all can work together to make it happen, would be my biggest, I would say, benefit, because not only will I know about the struggles that I face and that students face, but also different committees. So then I would bring it into the board and kind of talk about it and making sure that that change is created, because not only will I understand their perspective, but also see how it also relates to me and how I know that it would benefit everyone. So making sure that it happens and not just kind of hearing what people have to say and just letting
All
it
right,
go.
that's time. Thank you, Lexa. Moving to Robert. Again, this question is about the influence that board members can have on getting more online classes added to campus. Let's hear your thoughts. 1 minute on the clock. Time begins now.
Yes, and this is actually part of my my current campaign. One of my policies under my campaign that I want to address, and go check it out, please, on my Instagram if you have to see it more in detail. But to answer the question very quickly, is this can also go to the Academic Policies Committee, which I currently serve on. And like I mentioned before, I'm currently on that committee. And what we do is we work with faculty, faculty senate members, and the faculty chairperson, and a chairwoman, actually. And what we do is you bring it up to the Academic Policies Committee. And again, these committees aren't open. This one isn't open to the public, but the Vice President of Academic Affairs is able to appoint someone to that committee. And so that is one way we can do it. Number two is we could go to board ASI board meetings, which are every Wednesday, I believe at 2. I could be wrong, I'm not sure though. But you can show up and advocate there. And just one, quick thing is that as ASI board members, we can't, our main thing
All
is
right, that's time. Thank you, Robert. I know everybody has so much to say and so little time to say it, but we gotta keep moving. We only have till 2 o'clock. All right, and let's hear from Natalie on the influence board members can have on getting more online classes added to campus. 1 minute on the clock. Time begins now, Natalie.
I think the ASI Board of Directors can have the influence because they're at the table. It's open to the public, but we're directly at the table. This is what our job is to do, to advocate, to voice. Like, all it takes is to keep talking, keep trying. Even if doors are closed, you knock until they let you in. Like, that's the strategy of getting things done. Of course, there's policies, there's rules, there's bylaws of how to do things, but you figure that out. But the main goal is that you want to get it done. If students want online classes, then we try until we can add more online classes. No matter what we have to face, what laws, what people we have to go through, the fact is you just have to try to do it and advocate. Use your voice.
Thank you. All right, that concludes that question. We're gonna mark that one as done. Okay, here we go. Another question. This is from Emmeline. I hope I said that right. I believe this one's for everyone. It doesn't say. Lisa, what should I do? Just ask it to everybody? All right, so this one's for everybody. And the question is, what methods do you use to oversee multiple departments and ensure your work is error-free? So how would this apply to your work on the board of directors should you be elected? And we're going to start again with Lexa, and your 1 minute begins now.
As humans, no one is perfect. There will always be a mistake that we do or an error. It's our natural thing to do, but basically having great communication, but not just understanding what they have to say, but also, talking and making sure that you understand every concept and not only let it go into one ear and let it go out through another ear, but having that understanding of one another, as well as organization. I'm really big on organization, would help to create, to make less mistakes and understand where everyone comes from, because that will also make the working environment a lot better. And it will just help us, create more changes and work better as a team.
Thank you, Lexa. Let's hear from Robert about overseeing multiple departments and ensuring your work is error-free. 1 minute on the clock. Time begins now.
Yeah, and again, I think we're all human and we all make mistakes, and that's just a fact. But one of the ways that we can try to condense our errors is that's why we have committees. And I know I've been talking about committees for a long time, but it's very important because every director is in charge of some committees or has a seat at the table at many committees. And some of the committees that the Vice President of Academic Affairs attends is the Faculty Senate Committees, the Academic Policies Committee, and so many other committees. And that is one way that we can do it. Another one is listening to students themselves. We need to make sure that we're not in this for any personal interest and to make sure that our doors are open. I know Natalie can agree with that as well. We're open and we are here to listen to any students, any clubs, any organizations that need help or are having trouble with anything. And so those are my two ways to combat any of the errors that I know any of us will be able to make while in office.
All right, thank you, Robert. And last, we'll be hearing from Natalie on this question. Your 1 minute will begin right now.
Just to kind of repeat, no one is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. We're still learning, we're still growing up, especially me that I've held a few government positions in my past. I've made mistakes and I will own up to them. But the point is that you learn from those mistakes and you do better. You organize yourself better. You talk to the people you have to talk to. You delegate. That's the main important thing, that you know what you're doing, that you're talking to your people, that you're organizing yourself, that you're managing your time well and keeping yourself mentally okay. Because if you have all those factors in place, things will go okay for you. We're not saying everything will be perfect, but things will flow better if all those factors are in place and everyone's doing the job that they can do best.
Thank you very much, Natalie, and thanks to everyone for answering that question. We still have a few more to get through. I hope we can hit them all before we run out of time. So this one again is from Casey from the State Hornet. This one's for everybody. The question is, what are some specific ideas on closing the communication gap between students and the university and ASI? Again, we'll be hearing from Lexa first. Lexa, you have 1 minute on the clock, beginning now.
This has been a key thing that I've been focusing a lot on my campaign, is students getting to know me before voting for me or choosing to vote for me. Because if you don't know who they are, you don't know what their ideas are, what their principles are, what their goals are, or who they are as a person. So students knowing who the directors, who is ASI, like all the people that are in ASI, will give them a better understanding of like, okay, I can talk to so-and-so for this help because, they have this issue and like, I know that they have a similar background as me. Having students relate to you will help also just overall help them be more involved and help you, just create more changes. And if you would also like to learn more about who I am, definitely check out my Instagram. It's _Lexa_Yaleen. So yeah, definitely check it out, but definitely just knowing who's your board members or who are your
That's
ASI.
time. Thank you. All right, Robert. Wait, hit the wrong button. Tell us about some specific ideas you have on closing the communication gap between students, the university, and ASI. You have 1 minute beginning now.
I was hoping we got this question because it's actually on my campaign policies and on my link tree, and I go more in depth. But since we have like a minute, this is something on my campaign and something that I've noticed since I was a freshman in the Student Academic Senate is that there is some communication between the administration and students, but there's not enough. There's just not enough, and I cannot emphasize that in any other way. And so one way that and it's actually on my link tree, one way that I want to address this is actually appointing or maybe having a new position as a liaison between Sac State administration, let's say, for example, President Nelson's administration and student government, or President Nelson's administration and students, because that is something that we are lacking. And as a board, as the next Vice President of Academic Affairs, if elected, that is something I want to pursue. I know there's the Vice President of University Affairs, which Lexa is running for, but they have a lot on their plate already. And I feel like that's just an extra workload. And so we should have a separate position for this.
All right, got it right down to the end of your time, but you fit it in. Okay, and Natalie, Tell us about your ideas about closing the communication gap between students, the university, and ASI in 1 minute, beginning now.
I think this is also a really big issue because this is what I also struggled with doing in my high school. There was great division within my administrators and the students, and it's something I believe, like, for something to work, everybody has to work together. So I believe that, I'm not sure if this happens already, but I think that we should have, people from the university that work in President Nelson's office and people who work for ASI, and students can come and join and all speak together and talk about issues that affect all of us and what's a way that we can come to a conclusion to fix these issues that lack, communication between all of us. Because I think communication is just gonna fix it. If we don't talk, nothing's gonna happen. So I think if we bring everyone together in one room and actually talk and delegate through these issues, things will get done.
All right, thank you, everybody. Mark that question is complete. This one's from Emmeline again, and I'm just gonna ask everybody because it doesn't say, but that's all right. So starting again with Lexa, when entering this position, what would be your top 3 priorities and how would you tackle them? 1 minute to respond, Lexa, and your time begins now.
Okay, so my top 3 priorities would be student involvement, mental health, and coming together. So basically, by what I mean by that is, student involvement, talking to more students about the different committees areas, one-on-one, making sure that they know about the committees, because not a lot of centers on campus also know about the committees, or not a lot of people know about what ASI does. So making sure that they have an understanding of what that is first. The other thing is mental health. We all deal with mental health, and there's a lot of resources that people don't think that are here on campus, but they are. They're just not really talked about. So also making sure that that's a priority, and then also coming together. So we're all students, we're all here for the same purpose. We all either want to get a degree or we want to see students get their degree. So making sure that we all come together for the same purpose and just work together to create those changes that would benefit all of us.
Perfect timing. All right, Robert, tell us about your top 3 priorities and how you would tackle them if elected. 1 minute on the clock, time begins now.
So number 1 would be to straight out is listen to students. Number 2 would be to support equality education. And number 3 is to support faculty and staff diversement. And what I mean by that is what we need to do as board of directors and the next board of directors is we need to listen to faculty and staff on the issues they have. I know during the pandemic, there were a lot of issues that my professors had, and they just weren't there were many ways where there was just a miscommunication between faculty, administration, ASI, and it was just a mix-up, right? And so transitioning back to on-campus, we need to find a way where we can address those issues. Number 2, which is listening to students. Student government is one way. You attending today is already helping student government. It's already practicing and participating in our democracy here on campus. And to leave you all with a quote by Shirley Chisholm is, if they don't give you a chair at the discussion table, bring a folding chair. And something about that is, if
that's time. Thank you, Robert. And Natalie, tell us about your top 3 priorities and how you would tackle them. And your time begins right now.
3 main important priorities that I want to talk about is, first would be mental health. Secondly is showing the students and showing them how to use the resources that we already have on campus. And then third is to actually be a voice and to listen to students. To talk about the first one, mental health, I speak I prioritize it a lot because I believe it's very important. If we're not okay mentally, if we're not doing okay, it's going to be very hard to keep going, and that's physically going to wear us out from succeeding. So I think we always have to put mental health first so that we're okay. And then secondly is that I want to really show students where all our resources are allocated so they don't struggle with their academics. And then lastly, just being a voice for the students who feel like they don't have one, and be someone that they can come to if they have academic issues or any issues in general.
Thank you. All right, we're down to the last 2 questions here. This one's from Tony from the State Hornet, and this is for everybody. So we'll be starting with Lexa. How is it possible or realistic for ASI to be creating affordable housing for students in the area? Are there any specific plans for this? So Lexa, you'll have 1 minute to speak on this and your time begins now.
Being an ASI or not, coming together as students, we can create so many changes. So one that I really think about is just coming together as like the board members and looking at the different prices that there is here at Sacramento State, the housing plans that there is, and kind of getting an idea of how much students are also making a month. Because getting an idea of that will also give them the idea of look how much that student's paying and look how much they are making. It's not fair that they're paying this amount of money. And personally, I don't live on campus. I live off campus and my rent is still pretty high and I come from a bay. But yeah, making sure that they understand where the students are coming from and so that they can create something where, you know, we can compromise, and then also creating scholarships to help students also with that, because not all students live on campus and we're not able to create changes for them.
All right, thank you, Lexa. Robert, let's hear your thoughts on how it's possible or realistic for ASI to be creating affordable housing for students in the area, and if there are any specific plans. So your 1 minute begins now.
And actually, we've already done this. It's a project that we're still finishing in the Student Academic Senate, but then it got stalled because I forgot who, but it wasn't in the sphere for Student Academic Senate to actually preside over, but we're still trying to push it through the Student Academic Senate because this is an academic issue. Believe it or not, if a student does not have a roof over their head, a place to eat, a place when it's raining to be inside, I know there's the CARES office, but that's only temporary housing. We need permanent housing solutions for students. And this is actually on my link tree. Please go check it out in depth, right? But that's something that I'm currently championing. And I'm actually one of the authors in the Student Academic Senate alongside of Saudi Ashraf. And we're really trying to push for this because one of the things that we know is most effective is we just had a good conversation the week before spring break with Director Jones, the director of student housing on campus. I live in the Horny Commons. Everywhere it's expensive. Nationwide, rents are going up. And
all right, that's time. Thanks, Robert. And Natalie, let's hear your thoughts about what ASI can do for affordable housing for students. And your minute begins now.
I think this is a very tough question because I think this is an issue nationwide, school-wide, university-wide. I've heard this problem, and not only in our school, but in other schools. My rent is expensive, and thankfully I have found a way to be able to pay it, but I know there's students who aren't. And I think the only way that we can try to do this is actually sit down and talk about it. There's always going to be some sort of rule or policy that's not going to let us do this or do that. But the only way that I could really say is actually caring and actually talking about it, actually trying to do something, move something. You know what Robert's doing, it's really great that he's doing this for the students, but actually just students have to keep pushing for this because it's something that we're just going to have to keep dealing with until we're done with our degree. So I hope that, you know, whoever is elected for the next ASI Board of Directors takes this issue seriously and we find a solution.
All right, thank you, everybody. And we're down to our last question, which we just barely have enough time for. So let's get to it. This is for all candidates from Tyra. So we'll start with Lexa. In what ways do you feel you can get students more involved both on and off campus? Your 1 minute begins now.
Like I had mentioned before, talking to students and understanding what their goals are, understanding their major, their career goals will help me understand, which committee will will fit them best. And also just, talking about the different resources that there is. Once a student knows about a resource or a center on campus, they're gonna be like, all right, let me go check it out. I can study there or I can go ask for help. And then little by little, they'll get more involved. That's kind of how I started, and it's helped me so much. And I know that I won't be the only one, that I'm not the only student that has, gone through that, especially coming from a whole pandemic.
Thank you, Lexa. Robert, let's hear about how you feel you can get students more involved both on and off campus. 1 minute begins now.
Thank you for the question. And, for me, a little bit about when I joined college or entered college is it was really easy for me to get involved because I'm a government nerd too. I knew student government was a good thing at Sac State, given the capital is not too far from here and whatnot. But I know it's not easy for many students. And one way we can do this is to make them feel comfortable and open our doors as the next board of directors to coming in our office, coming into office hours, joining committees, joining ASI board of director meetings, because that is the number one way to get involved. And like I mentioned before, if you're a student watching this in person or online, you're already getting involved. This is involvement, and on the very entry level, right? If you want to take it a next step, go to the next ASI board meeting. Today is on Monday. Attend Wednesday, also voting starts Wednesday. So that's another way to get involved, and Thursday as well. And, that's just to knock it up, right? And if you want to go further, run for office one day in the future.
Oh, I was still on mute there, but you got just the right amount of time there. And so Natalie, let's hear from you. 1 minute on the clock, beginning now.
Ways that I think that we can get students involved is talking. I've had some people come up to me and they just start talking to me about what they're in and what they're doing. And that's how you learn, get the word out there, whether it's on social media, talking to people. But I also think it's very important for people to know who you are and feel comfortable coming to you as a person who represents them. And I feel very strongly about that. And on my campaign and my website and my Instagram, I feel very strongly about that for the students, for anyone to know who I am as a person so that they can trust me, so they can confide in me and I can help them, direct them in what they are interested in. There's tons of clubs and organizations on campus and we fit somewhere. So just hoping that students confide in me and I'm able to help them, guide them to find where they fit best.
All right, we just got through all of the audience questions and just in time. It is 1:59. Thank you to everyone in the audience who asked a question. We really appreciate you contributing to this conversation. But that brings us to the end of the forum. And so let's talk for a second about why we're here. This was super, super fun, but we don't just do this for the fun of it. We are actually gearing up for this week's election days for ASI student government. The election is online, so you can access the ballot online on our website, or it'll pop up in your student center if you log in on Wednesday and Thursday. And so the ballot will be available continuously starting at 8 a.m. on Wednesday the 6th, and it'll be open until 7:30 p.m. on Thursday the 7th. So you can vote anytime during that time period, even in the middle of the night. And just make sure you get your vote in. It's super important. Before you vote, make sure you are educated on who all of the candidates are and who you want to be representing you for the coming year. You can do that by either coming to the last forum that's happening tomorrow, or we have recordings on our website. We also have our voter booklet, lots of different outlets for you to get that information. But the most important thing is that you vote. I want to say thank you very much for everyone who attended today. We really appreciate you being here. And we want to make sure you get those votes in. But yeah, thank you so much. Stingers up and everybody have a good day.